Hello and welcome to another edition of the Light Vision Project. Today my guest has been a practicing chiropractor since 1996. He still is in practice today. He is the founder of the remarkable practice known as the Systems Guy. He is also the master of fundamentals, and so when you talk about the fundamentals in managing a great practice, he's our guy. He's also recently the founder of the Chiro Matchmakers. The goal of Chiro Matchmakers is to match chiropractors with other chiropractors, associates in great practices, and really create a relationship that works to assist young docs matching with more seasoned docs. And he probably will tell you a little bit more about it, but you can look at it certainly on the website. You can also find it on Facebook. You've seen all sorts of ads recently about Chiro Matchmakers. So our guest today, Dr. Stephen Franson. Stephen, welcome.
Dr. Joe, thank you for having me, buddy.
As I mentioned prior to starting our recording, we really want to talk about retention and other fundamentals. And to segue into that, subluxations have existed for years on individuals take a huge toll on health and vitality. We know that years of spinal decay and neurological insult can't be corrected overnight. Therefore, chiropractic care for most really is not simply like a 1 or 2 week process, let alone a 1 or 2 visit process. And my basic question for you today would be, how do you address retention in your practice so that people get it, so that they get it to stay long enough to truly understand the paradigm and achieve optimum health through chiropractic?
Well, this is my favorite subject, Jill. I really appreciate that this is the topic. Because to me, retention is everything. Like, practice is retention. Like, I don't try to integrate retention or retention consciousness into my practice. Everything we do in practice is about retention. So you hear me say attract to convert to retain. That's the culture of our practice. It's the DNA of our practice, because as you understand and I understand, all of the goodies live in retention. If there's the compound benefit of chiropractic care over time, we do our best work over time. We get our best results over time. It's really where everybody wins, right? So the clinical results for the patient over time, the results for the practice as far as practice growth over time, and of course, fulfillment for the chiropractor and for the teams. I'm sure you're like me in that you're disappointed when people don't start care, but I hate when people discontinue care, right? So they're like part of the family, they're part of the tribe, because we know that they're falling into this black hole. They don't leave our practice and go find another awesome chiropractor. They fall back into that big black hole of the medical world. So we got to be able to level up our game and make sure that we are holding on to the people that come into our practice and raise their hand and say, I need help. We've got to step up our game and make sure that we keep those people that show up in the first place.
So how do you do that?
Well, the retention really starts on day zero. So when we talk about day zero, that's sort of our marketing message and all of the promotion and the marketing that we do, all the way through our day 1, 2 conversion process, getting people to start, beginning with the end in mind, so to speak. And then day 3 and beyond, everything that we do is designed in our practice basically to just do one thing, and that is to take the person from being a believer to being an understander. The difference between you and I and every other patient that walks in through the front door that commits to care and starts care is that they believe you. They believe that you're going to be able to help them on day 1 and day 2 when they convert and they first say yes to care. They just believe that you're going to be able to help them. They believe you're going to help them get what they want. They don't understand chiropractic yet. They don't understand their spine and nervous system. They don't understand the principle. They certainly don't understand subluxation. They don't understand the power of the adjustment yet. So they just believe you. So our goal from day 2 and beyond is to take that believer and turn them into an understander. Because when people understand chiropractic care, they want chiropractic care. You and I don't believe in chiropractic care. We understand chiropractic care. When's the last time somebody had to talk you into getting your spine and nervous system checked, or get checked regularly, right? So the key
for me, it's actually been
understanders.
For me, it's been 50 years, because the first time I went to a chiropractor, I was 12. He got me convinced at the beginning they could help me with the back pain that I had. I was not convinced at all that he could help me with other issues that he discovered, which he called subluxation, affecting my nervous system, causing my digestive system to fail. But I'll tell you what, once I started getting the results, I then became a believer, and then later on got to understand that behind every principle is a promise, right? The principle of chiropractic is just, they're just facts. They're not things that we need to believe in. So you convert them, obviously. You get to convert them from a believer, which starts with the education, because if you tell them, yes, Jill, I can help you, and I go, great, finally found a doctor that can help me. Now, how do you convert me from a believer to an understander? Like, I want our audience to hear a few steps at least that you implement in your processes that would cause me to go from, oh, I believe that Dr. Franson can help me, to like, wow, I want this for the rest of my life, and for my wife, and for my children, and for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
You're exactly right. And before I jump into the tactical, and you know me, I'm always tactical and practical, and I like to teach the how-tos. In my experience, if they understand the why, the doctor, the chiropractor understands really why this is so important, they're going to commit themselves to doing the tactics. So let's back it up a little bit and help them understand that. Perfect. You know, if you do recognize that you have a believer on your hands, because at the end of the day, they just simply trust you, and in the very beginning of care, they believe that you can help them. As I said, belief runs out, right? So once you make that shift to being an understander, that never runs out. Just like with you and I, we've kind of crossed through that threshold. Believers are heavy. You got to carry them on your back, right? And you know you've got a believer because they've got lots of questions. There's pushback. There's objection. Very often at the table, you feel like you have to validate continued care, right? You're dealing with a believer at that point. They have not had their aha moment. They have not had their breakthrough. The understanders on the other side are weightless. They're like carrying a bunch of balloons. You can carry thousands of people who are understanders. And once I understood that, I said, you know what? That becomes my primary objective. So I studied our practice, and I said, you know what makes our practice special? And it was retention. The people that start with us stay with us. And I said, in our industry, the average PVA, or patient visit average, is 12 to 18, depending on who you talk to. And that to me is a shocker, right? The idea that somebody who would come into chiropractic care would get on average over their lifetime, Joe, an average of 12 to 18 visits over a lifetime. Are you kidding me? And in our practice, we enjoy a retention of north of 300, as high as 350, which means that the average person that starts with us stays with us for 350 visits in a lifetime. And that's extraordinary, right? So I said, what are we doing right? And I studied our system. I studied our processes. And I said, why do people leave and why do they stay? And I came up with what I consider the big seven. Okay. And these are the big seven reasons people stay under care. And if you do these things, if you bake these things into your system, they'll stay forever, right? And ultimately, what are you trying to do is you're trying to create clarity. And you're trying to create clarity around the value of continued chiropractic care. Because getting somebody to start under care is one thing. Having them stay under care is an entirely different thing. Okay, so we want to create that understander through a very deliberate process where these mechanisms are baked into your system. So you don't have to remember to do them. You don't have to think to do them. There's an automaticity to this that happens just by being your patient, right? And if these seven things are not in your practice, these create the gaps that people drop through your process. Okay, so as they're marching along, if there's a gap, if one of these is missing, it's like a missing plank and a hanging bridge. This is where people drop out, right? So as you go through your patient process, listen for these mechanisms. Are they in place? The big seven gaps, or big seven reasons people discontinue care are: number one, product confusion. You're selling one thing, they're buying another thing. Number two, table talk. We have an opportunity and therefore a responsibility every time we meet with a patient to teach them something that will challenge and shape their belief system. That's table talk. It's the ultimate continuing education. Number three, new patient orientation, or your workshop, or your doctor's report. Are you doing a new patient orientation? Are you creating the space and time for patients to have their breakthrough, to have their aha moment, to have their epiphany, like you and I had our epiphany. You have to create the space and time for that. If you do not do that, trust me, it's not happening on day one, day two. It is not happening tableside. It's not happening anywhere it's not happening because of great results. You have got to create the space and time for them to have their paradigm breakthrough. I love the expression that they have to have a philosophical breakthrough before they have a physiological breakthrough.
Yes.
Number 4, progress exams and progress reports, the critical feedback loop. We're human beings. All your patients are human beings. We human beings love to be measured, and they require feedback from an authority. So we have to make sure that we have progress exams and progress reports, regular reevaluations with feedback, and close that feedback loop through the patient. Number 6 is flow, making sure that you don't have, number 5 is flow. That's patient flow is so critically important in your practice. And I don't mean just the physicality of it. So if you have flow issues, what's happening is it's become clunky to be your patient. You're making it more difficult than it needs to be your patient. You're making it harder to stay under care. Okay. Now you don't have to try to make it easy, but don't try to make it harder. So if your practice flow is clunky, if your location sucks, or your parking sucks, or your hours suck, right? These are creating clunkiness in your practice. If your team's not trained on the phones and how they manage people on the phones, at the front desk and interaction, if your wait time is sideways, or you're falling behind in reports, etc., these are all flow issues in a practice. Number 6 is expectations and agreements. Expectations and agreements, all good, long-standing relationships that you and I enjoy, successful, long-standing relationships, always begin with 2 things in common: clear expectations and honest agreements. Amen?
Absolutely, amen for that.
I know you well, man. You run your life like I do. It's all about expectations and agreements. And all of these things have to be done on the front end. It's amazing when you look at your relationships that are successful, they always started with great expectations and agreements. You absolutely should do that with your patients.
And a clear understanding of what those expectations are in both directions.
Absolutely.
Right? What the patient can expect from you.
Clear expectations. It's a 2-sided relationship.
Absolutely.
So what I expect of you, this is what you should expect of me. And now I want to hear from you. What do you expect from me? And what do you expect to contribute to this relationship for it to be successful?
Even today's relationship of doing this 30-minute interview, we set the expectations, right? We knew we were going to get on at 8 o'clock sharp. We were going to be done by 8:30. Gave a brief understanding of what we're attempting to achieve to help the profession, to help our chiropractors understand and be clear with their life vision, and then how to implement it so they can be successful. I mean, it took 2 minutes, but we created an agreement. You said, yes, I'd be happy to serve. Let's go. So
and those 2 minutes on the front end save 20 hours of struggle, strife, pain, frustration, upset, and negative endings on the back end, right? So
absolutely.
Expectations and agreements. And finally, number 7, which is the value economy. As human beings, we're economists. And all human beings have 4 limited resources: their time, energy, focus, and money. Those 4 things need to be respected, marshaled, managed well, right? So every human being in your office has got the scales in their brain going like this. And on this side, they've got their time, energy, focus, and money, their favorite things. And that stuff's heavy, right? In this hand, we have the value for a continued chiropractic care. Okay, so the value of chiropractic care in this side has got to offset this side. The second these become healthier, they're gone. That's where they leave. That's an overriding narrative. So you brought up a really great point in the beginning when you said when people have chronicity to their subluxation pattern, they've got old problems, and it's going to take time for tissue remodeling and histological repair and recovery in the nervous system, etc. But what we have to help people understand, even more importantly, Jill, in my position, is the causes of subluxation in their lives. Because I find that people need to know 5 things. What is a subluxation? What does subluxation cause in your body? What causes subluxation? How do you know if you have subluxation, and what should you do if you have subluxation? Those are the big 5, right?
Absolutely.
And I find it's number 3 that people screw up with. And that is what causes subluxation. And I mean specifically to that person. It's got to be relevant and personalized to them, because if they understand what causes their subluxation patterns, not just historically what caused their chronic problems and the traumas involved, but what are they doing today in their modern terrifically unnatural, stressful lives that are completely sideways, those habituated stressors that cause their subluxation pattern to reoccur regularly, which helps them understand why they need to be checked and adjusted regularly. That's $1 million concept if you understand that as a chiropractor, is that it's not just talking about the motorcycle injuries or the hockey traumas, etc. They have to get that, but they get that. What they have to understand is that their modern life is terribly unnatural, and the things that they do every day are causing and promoting their subluxation patterns to reoccur regularly, which is why they need to get their spine and nervous system checked regularly.
So where do you address that? I mean, obviously when we do our healthcare class, we address that in general with the population. When you do table talk, and I'll ask you to do a little bit more on the table talk topic, something that I was masterful at because I understood it, but I want the audience to hear it from you as an expert who's practicing now 21 years, pretty much 21 years. But so where do you start addressing it, and how deep do you get into helping them discover their chronic recurring subluxation patterns?
Oh man, if we recognize that retention's everything, that's where all the goodies live, that's where they're going to get the results that they want, and that's where we're going to get the results that we want. What determines retention is clarity around the benefits of continued chiropractic care. And what's going to feed that is to make sure that they understand how their regular lifestyle is causing subluxation regularly, which is why they need to be checked regularly. That's how deep I get into it. That's all I talk about, Joe. That's all I talk about. When you talk about, table talk, you didn't have to tell me you were a master in the adjustatorium, because at the end of the day, in the thousands of chiropractic offices I've been in, I will tell you this one truth. Every one of these successful doctors is a master in the adjustatorium. And every master in the adjustatorium is a successful chiropractor. That's the one thing that you see across the board. Now, the styles are different, for sure, wildly different. But every one of them owns that table and recognizes the power of that continued education and speaking into that human being under your hands and being very present and being incredibly deliberate about what you're talking about at the table. Because at the end of the day, you're the sole champion. You're the only voice they're ever going to hear that's going to tell them the truth. And the second they walk away from your table, they're not walking out into this vacuum where it's just time that creates this dilution of them understanding of the truth. In fact, the truth is under attack. It's under siege outside of your office. The second they walk away from your table, there's an incredibly aggressive marketing force that's moving them away from the truth. And you have to understand that and embrace that relationship with the patient. You are the one champion. So when you have them on your table, what you need to be is super present and really deliberate that this is what we're going to be teaching. This is what we're going to be talking about today. And what we're going to be talking about is you. We're going to be talking about the things that you're doing that is moving you away from your health, away from your goals. And I'm going to talk to you about what you do every day, day in and day out, that's creating subluxation in your spine. So one of my primary objectives on the table is to shift and challenge their paradigm. I want to shape their paradigm, and I'm going to ask them, I'm going to teach them, I'm going to provoke them to tell me what they're doing on a regular basis that's unnatural, that's subluxating them. It's the chief thread through all of my table talk.
So this is a tongue-in-cheek question. So do you mean that right now, when you're adjusting people, you're not talking to them about the Super Bowl?
Well, I'm a big Pats fan, so, I definitely weave the Patriots and the Super Bowl, the future Super Bowl champion Patriots, into our conversation. But you know what? We're always one step away from subluxation, chiropractic, the adjustment. I mean, at the end of the day, Gronkowski's just had spinal surgery. Are you kidding me? I was just about to take off on an airplane when I heard that. And, of course, that's what everybody in the practice wants to talk about the next day. And I am one sentence away from flipping that around to, man, do you think that guy needs a great chiropractor or what? Man, give me 6 days with him and we'd save him that surgery, right? So you're always one sentence away from making it about chiropractic. I don't care if somebody's talking to you about, hey, doc, I brought you brownies here because we love you today. Joe, you're awesome, man. Isn't it amazing that my intelligent body is going to take those brownies and be able to find some nutrition in them and turn them into eyeballs? How awesome are you? Let's get you checked. Oh, yeah, my cat just had kittens. Oh, man, do you know I adjust dogs and horses? I do not adjust cats. They do not appreciate a good adjustment, right? I am one step away from banging my one drum. I've got one drum and I'm going to bang it. And I've set that expectation for my patients. They roll their eyes. They think I'm crazy, and they love that about us.
And I experienced the same thing in practice. And whenever I would visit practices, I would be stunned watching chiropractors talking about everything other than the person that's lying on their table in that moment. A total lack of present time consciousness, a conversation about the weather, a conversation about hockey, snow, nothing but that, and not talking chiropractic.
This is a major struggle for almost every chiropractor I talk to. And because of what they say is they've got this limiting belief. They're like, well, I want to have a relationship with my patients and I don't want to feel rushed. And I want to make sure that I have time to talk to them about that. I'm just like, hold on. Your PVA is 20. My PVA is 350. Who has a relationship with their patient? Right. So it's like, are you trying to be buddies with your patients? Are you trying to be pals with your patients? I mean, I love chiropractors. I mean, I married mine. We got 7 in my family. I love chiropractors, right? But at the end of the day, we've got to get attached to something other than our patients liking us. They're not looking for a friend. They're not looking for a buddy. They're looking for a doctor. They're looking for a coach. They're looking for a leader, a guide, a Sherpa, whatever you want to call it. They need somebody who's going to teach them the truth, show them the way, connect with them, and give them direction. Your patients want 2 things: connection and direction. They want connection. They want you to feel like you get them and you understand them. You understand what their challenges are, what's brought them here, what their fears are, what they don't want, and they want to know that you know their goals. What are they trying to accomplish? Immediate, short-term, and long-term goals. They want to feel that empathetic connection with you, that you get me. Because if you get me and understand me, guess what? You can help me. If you understand my problem, you might have a solution. If you understand my question, you might have an answer, right? So once you make that empathetic connection, their brain shifts and says, do you know how to help me get what I want? And that's where they need direction. That's where they need your certainty, your conviction, and your clarity around what they need to do to get what they want. And that's where they go from connection to direction. Doctor, give me direction. And once you give them direction, they're going to hire you. And that's where the game begins. That's the price of admission. And that's where they start. They just said, okay, you're hired. I'm now available to you. You can now teach me. You can now lead me. You can now coach me. You can now doctor me. We're going to begin right now. Conversion's the beginning of the process, not the end of the process. This is when they're now available to you. Now you need to step into that gap. You got to give them direction. And then you take on your role of keeping them accountable to your recommendations for care. They pay you for 2 things: your expertise and accountability. That happens at the table.
And importantly, they don't pay you for your time. So in other words, you don't have to spend 15, 20 minutes with a patient every single visit to think that you're going to connect with them. Because 3 things you mentioned, I mean, everything you're mentioning in this short interview is fantastic, but certainty, conviction, and connection. Certainty, conviction, and connection doesn't happen by just spending tons of time necessarily, does it? It happens by, number 1, chiropractor, show up certain, with a conviction that you can help them. And you're going to create the connection when you share that with people. So I'd like you to continue a little bit on that vein of communication to that state of connection as it relates to time.
Well, you're talking to a reformed 15-minute adjustment guy. Okay, so I used to spend 15 minutes with a patient. We'd schedule 4 people an hour. I'm a gondroid. I'm a Gonstead guy. Scoping, gowning, 4 tables, the whole deal, right? So it was 1 person scheduled every 15 minutes. I was exhausted at the end of, the week. We'd see 70 people a week, and I'm like, and, I don't know if I can see more people, right? So because I was just exhausted by that, because it was more of a dog and pony show, because I was skipping that point around making that connection and creating that understander. So at 15-minute adjustments, and truth be told, it was really your adjustment ended when the next patient showed up. So if there was a gap in the schedule book, you had me for a half an hour, and I'd be doing everything from adjusting your wrists, ankles, and drawing x-ray lines and teaching you about how to draw lines on an x-ray and teaching you everything you never wanted to know about chiropractic. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I do a workshop almost every visit, and it was exhausting me. And people would get good results. They'd be super happy, and then they'd leave. And I'd be like, what is wrong with these dummies? Am I specializing in dummies or what? And I realized the only thing they had in common was me. I was the dummy. And I'm like, wait a minute, I need to change what I'm doing. And, we made an evolution, and it wasn't just a switch that was thrown. I don't like when leaders or coaches or doctors, that it wasn't a switch that was thrown. It was an evolution. It was a process. I had to grow into the doctor that could see 300 people a day. I had to grow into the 2-minute sub 2-minute adjustment. And I had to define what it was. What is my best work? Like, where am I doing my best work? Not where am I seeing the most people? Where am I doing my best work for the most people over the longest period of time? That's how I define fulfillment. That's what I'm attached to.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best work for the most people possible over the longest period of possible. That's what I try. That's everything I do. So I stopped and I said, well, how long does it take to adjust my wife and my children? Okay, I don't love any patient more than them. So if I can check them in 2 minutes and get them just to get their power turned on, why am I spending 19 minutes with this person? Okay, so, I had to get my head around it. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to having super clarity and certainty around what your best work looks like, and don't compromise. That's it. That's what it takes to check a spine, adjust it, and teach and change your mind. That's where you hear my tagline is checking spines and changing minds. So it takes me 2 minutes to do that. Okay, as long as I'm focused and present. So if you're asking me, how do you go from 15 minutes to 2 minutes? Very simple. Get focused on what your best work is and stay present. Presence is like a superpower. When you're present time conscious with a person, it's like they're in a trance. You know, and I know it. If anybody's ever spent any time with you, Jill, you're PTC, man.
PTC, 100%. I mean,
that's a complete shit show going on all around me in my practice, or you at a seminar or what have you. There's one person in the world in my eyes. There's one person in the world under my hands. And I've trained up my team that's their time on the table. Don't be calling me in my adjustatorium. Don't interrupt me in the adjustatorium. We have systems for attraction, conversion, and retention. You are trained, highly trained, specialists. Now your job is to protect my focus so I can stay present with my patients. I trust my team. I'm now, I was a control freak perfectionist, which is a terrible combination for years and years and years. And all of a sudden I decided, you know what? I'm done with that. I'm going to become a master systems guy, trainer, and delegator. And I'm going to let them do it so that I can do the one thing I'm uniquely qualified to do, is that's being present with that patient, right? So it's all about creating the environment that's going to allow you to stay focused and stay present with that patient. And it stretches space and time.
I'll tell you, in what the timer is showing 27 minutes and 27 seconds, you shared so much amazing information. So I'll ask you one last question as it relates to people's life vision. In 2 minutes, what's your best advice to people who are interested in discovering and expressing their life vision?
So vision is where everything starts. All success starts with clear vision. And what I'll suggest to people is that your vision is a story. It's not a statement. Like, you have a purpose statement, mission statement, premise statement, but it's a vision story. And you should be able to stand in front of a group of people and say, shut your eyes. I want you to see what I see. I want you to see the better tomorrow. I want you to see what success looks like. And you should be able to describe it with such texture and detail. And you should pixelate that thing so that everybody in the room is nodding their head. You should tell that story with so much passion that it's so compelling that people are moved to help you manifest it and help you create it. You've got to be able to talk me into it.
You got 60 seconds to tell us yours. I'm going to close my eyes. I want you to tell me your vision.
My vision is that we introduce 1 million new patients a year to chiropractic through principled chiropractors working in the remarkable practice. We're going to do that by turning on 1,440 chiropractors and get them to increase their new patient volume by 30 new patients per month by the year 2020.
Wow. You see, I closed my eyes. I got that whole picture. 1,440 chiropractors.
The greatest accelerator.
Wow, that was beautiful. Stephen, we're right on time, and I so appreciate you taking time. I mean, for those listening, we're actually doing this on the day before New Year's Eve, and the fact that you took time early in the morning to share your wisdom and your pearls with the Life Vision Project, love and appreciate you. Happy 2017. Look forward to staying connected. Look forward to having you at Life Vision on April 21, 22, 2017. And we are creating this event as the signature event for the East Coast. So look forward to having you there. And also, thank you so much for being a member of the President's Circle at Life University and for everything you do for chiropractic and for chiropractors around the globe. God bless you, buddy.
So I thank you. Thank you so much for helping me serve my purpose, which is to help chiropractors do a better job serving theirs. So my parting words of love is to make sure that everybody remembers that it's about having a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life. So go forward and do great work. Thanks so much for all that you do, Joe.
Thanks, Stephen.